Okay, there I am. All right. So thanks, Karen, so much for asking me to speak at the Serenity Improvement Group. Quite a group of people, and thank you for your service. I know that there's a lot involved with this, uh, with any group, but this is a big Zoom group, so there's a lot of coordinating in the background. And I know, for based on what I heard from all the different readings, that you've asked people ahead of time, and so there's got to be set up ahead of time. And for anybody that does that kind of service work, God bless you. You know, that's what I was hit with when I first came into my group, which I consider my home group, where I work the steps. And they did not uh, take too much time with me. They say, you go over to the beginners group, and you'll probably will want you to make coffee. And so I was put into service right away. And then what wasn't too much longer after that, they had me doing 1, 2, 3 wrap up meetings, and taking care of the literature. And uh, that that does great things for people. And what it does for me, and what it did for me, is it got me feeling like I belonged. But it got me to the meeting about 15 minutes, 20 minutes ahead of time. And when that happened, I started meeting other people that were in the service part of the meeting. And we got to talking, and I got to finding out the lay of the land, more or less. And so that made me feel very good, you know. And of course, um, there's more to the beginning of my story. But, it's amazing that pain got me through the door. And when it comes to pain, I think that does a lot. It does a lot for any alcoholic, as far as motivating us um, into the program, and it did for me. Luckily, I had my brother, who was 3 years ahead of me, and he introduced me to good meetings. And so I was introduced to those meetings, and that was very important. And it's amazing that we find ourselves at the threshold of an AA meeting, and we're nervous, we're torn down, we're frustrated. We can't control our drinking anymore. The booze doesn't work for us anymore, and we don't know what to do. I was aimless and frustrated, and all those things to get me into the doors of the AA. But at the beginning of my life, really, when it started for me, was when I was going to grammar school. Both my brother and I went to parochial schools. We had great parents. Our parents weren't alcoholics, and they gave us a really good moral upbringing. And so, when I say that, I'm talking about church, and I'm talking about Boy Scouts, and I'm talking about all the things that happen to most middle class kids in America, which was really fantastic. And I was very happy. I was a happy kid. And I was very social too. So I was out, but when I was in school, I was a slow learner. So, and what that did is that they had like 40 kids in a class, and the nuns would just put us where they could fit us into the class. And I was put into the slow learners group. So I was in the aisle with all the troublemakers and all the kids that had problems. That's where I went. And so, and I was very shy, very bashful, as far as getting up in front of people and talking, and so that created some problems for me. And the point to all this is this: I had a lot of things that I felt that I was inadequate, and I took all those feelings of inadequacy, and I dragged those right into my alcoholism. And whether so I had all kinds of misconceptions that I learned from not listening to the teachers and not listening to the kids that were really applying themselves, but with the goofy kids, with the kids that were troublemakers, and with the kids that had as many problems as I did. And so, so that put me into a group of people, and so I got to laugh. And it's like, I was a slow learner, and I still am a slow learner. I learn slow and I forget fast, and so that's one of those things that that has been part of my program. We got a guy at our meeting in the mornings, and he always says that I learn slow and I forget fast. That's why I need to go to meetings all the time. I need to go to meetings to be reminded that I am this person. And when I say I am this person, I'm saying I am an alcoholic, and my name is Tom D. And so when I say that, I have come to accept the fact that that I am an alcoholic, and so that's part of the thing that is so important to any of us that come into AA, is that we actually accept the fact that we are alcoholics. And I would say that that was probably step one, and that's very good for me to get the me to we, and that's really what happens when I get into AA, and when I get to a good meeting. I gotta get that into my head, that I am not alone. And that was part of my problem too, because I was very secretive. I didn't want you to know that I had these inadequacies. I didn't want you to know that that I was this slow learner. I didn't want you to know that I didn't get it. I thought that I was supposed to know these things, and of course, you're not going to find anything out if you don't ask for help. And so there's two things that are really a problem. I was secretive, and I didn't ask for help. I never questioned. I never did. I just went along with it. And if I could slide under the radar, that was good for me. And I couldn't wait to get out and about and socialize with my friends and have a good time. And of course, that was part of the problem too. I always wanted to have a good time. I would have rather have. I didn't really want responsibility, and I really liked to be around people and to socialize. And so those were things. I grew up in the 60s. All right, both my brother and I did most of my alcoholic drinking in the 70s and the early 80s. And so that's, well, let's say 15 years of drinking, and probably half of that was drinking alcoholically. And so, I mean, I had a really good time with alcohol when I first started drinking. Although the first time I drank, I blacked out. I drank. I was drinking. I think it was 7-7 in the back of my friends. I was going to get even, and I was drinking for liquid courage. And I was going to go. I had been in a fight with some people in a neighborhood, and I was going to go and I was going to get even with people. And so I drank a bottle of Seagram 7 down like it was soda pop. First time I drank, and I just about killed myself. And I never made it to the fight. And the other thing that happened is that I had fallen and I scraped my face up, and my friends got somebody to come over and help them get me back to this gas station, where the gas station owner knew us kids in the neighborhood, and he threw me in the back by the drain because he knew I was going to puke. And then he carried me he had to wait until the end of the evening, and then he carried me into my parents' house, and they cleaned me up, undressed me, washed me down, and put me to bed just like a little baby. And so I woke up with my underwear next to my bed. I was all cleaned up, didn't know what had happened to me, where I had been. I blacked out, and they said, and they didn't talk to me for a month, because that's how our German family took care of things. And they said they give you the quiet or treatment. They wouldn't say anything to you. And And so that was my first experience with booze. And what that tells me is this, and it didn't really change. I never could control my drinking. I didn't know how to drink. I didn't know how to drink socially. I drank so that I could be social, but I couldn't drink. I really couldn't drink with any success. And that was really my problem. And so I tried different methods, of course, like we all do. And so those things that when I first started out, I did a lot of blacking out, and that was not good. Not until I got to a point where I could really calm down and take care of myself, and take that level off. So what was that? What does that mean? As Dr. Bob says I tried the beer experiment. And so the beer thing was what I did to keep myself from getting completely annihilated whenever I drank. And when I got out of course, I went through high school, and like I said, I went through Catholic high school, and I still was dragging. I was dragging all those inadequacies around with me, and when I got out of high school, I went to the American Academy of Art, and I studied art. I was going to be an illustrator, and so that's what I did for 4 years. And there I felt that I was successful at that. Of course, they gave me they supported me in my thinking, so that was part of the problem too. But and of course I was going to be a world killer, and I was going to get out there, and I was going to be a fine artist, right? Well, we all know about starving artists, and that was part of the problem. And if you think about that, here I am, a person with not a lot of academic skills, but I have good art skills, and I'm filled with idealism. And so I'm out in the world, and I'm going to do all these things. And while I'm doing this and having this success, it was 60, 67, 68, 69. All right. So I was pretty much a wannabe a hippie. And so what that means is that there were drugs involved. So I'm not going to go into a lot of that, but I can tell you, if I mixed drugs with alcohol, I got into a lot of trouble with that. And so so that was just another way of having fun with my friends, and dealing with all the different craziness that was going on in Chicago. The school was in Chicago. Of course, we had the Democratic problems down in the city, which I kind of brushed around. I didn't really go. I didn't really attend those the nightmare that they had down in the city at that time. That was 68, 69. Just about burnt down the west side of Chicago, and so there were a lot of places that I knew I couldn't go. I had to avoid. And so I just avoided those things. I knew what real trouble was. And so I could avoid. Of course, we were under martial law for a little time there. So that put me in a hole on that one. But while that was all happening, I was having a real good time and going through all my different things. And by the time I got out of art school, I had decided that I would move into a apartment with a couple friends of mine. And all these people that I moved in with, they all drank as heavily as I did. And a lot of the people that I drank with were much bigger than I was. I'm about 6'7", 160, and they were all way bigger than I was. I would try to keep up with them with the drinking, which only led to more frustration and more, just, I had to be careful. I had to be careful with the things that I did and where I went and everything. But they were good friends, and we had a lot of fun. And I got into sports, and they were a sports conscious group, and we did a lot of 16-inch softball. So for about 15 years, I played 15-inch softball with a group, and so I went from weekend drinking to drinking during the week. So uh, our softball leagues, and of course we went to bars that would sponsor our softball teams, and that would get us to the bar before and after. Sometimes, most of the time, after the game. So that's starting to get me into the bars during the week. And so now I'm drinking on the weekend to party, and then I'm going to softball practice and softball and any kind of other sports. We had lots of different teams, volleyball teams, whatever the season was, we had a team for it because we were sports conscious, and we enjoyed competing. And so all these things happened, and as I got out of school, my other friends started getting out of school, and they were heavy drinkers just like I was, and but they were getting on with their lives. They had gone to college, they came back, they were getting serious jobs. I had several part-time jobs, and that enabled me to work and make money, but just barely enough to make my uh, mortgage, if you want to call it, or rent with the other people. And so I was just getting by, and they were going on with their lives, and some of them were getting married, and here I am. I'm working at a frame shop. I'm working as I'm working at a print shoots print shop as an assistant, and I'm doing things that I'm teaching a little bit on the side, and I'm drinking the whole time. All this is happening, and now what's happening is that the other people are getting on with their lives, and I'm kind of pretending like I'm making it in the world, and I'm really not making it in the world. I'm just getting more and more bewildered by life itself, and so my drinking behavior is starting to be affected by my emotions. And what I mean is this: is that as I'm doing all these things, I had nice relationships with women, and but they didn't stick around. It didn't last long before they kind of figured out this guy's he's a joker. He's just like, there's not much future left in this guy. And so they went on with their lives too. And of course that created emotional problems for me. So now I'm drinking because I'm emotionally upset, or I'm drinking because I'm lonely, or I'm drinking because I'm confused, and so now what's happening is that I'm really becoming kind of pissed off. I mean, it's like I'm aggravated with life. I don't have the same friends anymore, but I'm still in an environment to drink. In fact, I'm in two environments now. I'm at an apartment, and now I have my softball teams, and I have another environment up to drink. And so I went to while my other friends started to move on with their lives, I just kind of stuck around with the bars, and so I went down our favorite or one of our favorite roads in Chicago area, Milwaukee Avenue, which is basically the same from the beginning to the end. Laundromat, bar, something like that, and they maybe a Polish deli in there somewhere, and or Italian beef place. And anyways, but it's a long street, four lanes wide, and plenty of bars. And so I frequented a lot of those bars, and I knew a lot of the people that were in the bars because of our social environment. And so I moved out of my one group of friends place, and we went. I think a friend of mine and myself, we drove to Alaska, and that we figured that was going to be an adventure, and it was an adventure. It was great. It was an adventure, but we drank. We drank as soon as we got across the border in Canada. We put a big case of Labatt's between us, and we drove to Mount McKinley, and that was an adventure and a half, and it was wonderful. And everything was it was the best of times, and it was the worst of times, because when I got back from that trip, this was all so that I could. This is also that I could collect photos and that for my art. And I was going to have an art show. I had everything lined up for myself when I got back from Chicago, and that worked out really well. When I got back, I had still was living with the other people, and they had decided that they were going to move on. The one boy and a girl, they moved on, and they were going to get married, and so our apartment fell apart. And so I moved back in with my parents, and so now I'm down in my basement, my parents' house, and trying to pretend like I'm a successful artist, and of course when I came back, another relationship had fallen apart, and so when I got back, I had the show. It was a disaster because I just didn't put the second effort into it. There's another problem, is that I didn't put the second effort into life. And that was the follow-up. I worked hard enough at trying, but trying doesn't get it done. Just like the steps, trying at the steps don't get it done. You have to work the steps, and you got to work the steps with a sponsor, and that's how it gets done. And just like anything else in life, if you put effort into it and you really think about it and study it and work at it and find out what's necessary and have people that you ask for help with, just like life, if you work the steps, you get results. And that's very important in life, and it's very important with AA. And so as I was becoming, well, I guess what it was really happening is that I had become a social problem, and I was a problem drinker. All right, so that's how I considered myself, a problem drinker. All right, so, and I can tell you that a problem drinker, you know what a problem drinker is, everybody out there in AA land is. That's a problem, is that when I drink, I'm a problem. And if I'm drinking with you, I'm your problem. If I'm drinking in your bar, I'm your problem. And so you got to do something with me at the end of the evening, most likely. That was probably, I would say that 25% of the time, someone had to drive me home or figure out where I had lived or where it would happen. And so that became and was a problem. And from there, I became a social problem. And the social problem is a little bit more serious than the personal problem, because the social problem is like this: I go out of the bar, I try driving home drunk, I pile my car into a post and total my car, and that's a social problem, because that involves police, and it involves hospitals, and it involves all kinds of other people that don't have anything other to do with me other than patch me up and give me what I deserve. And so, and lucky for me, I drank with a lot of police. I was situated in Chicago, where there were a lot of police working where I drank. And so when they got off of duty, they came in, and they would get me out of a lot of the scrapes when it came to the law. And so I avoided a lot of consequences. And so but I didn't avoid a lot of consequences mentally and physically, because along with financial, total cars, that costs money. getting things back together again. That costs money. It takes time to evaluate where you are with your drinking. How much does it cost? What's going on here? And by that time, I had moved into another another couple of guys who drank heavier than I did, and it was another environment for drinking. All right, so now I have three environments for drinking, and so I can go home and I can drink and drug. I can go. In fact, they did drugs a lot more than I did, a lot more than I wanted to. So one of my genius idea was that I would avoid going home. So I would go to the bar to drink to avoid going home. So now I'm kind of like, I'm really kind of pushing the envelope as far as how I'm thinking about things. And so I'm thinking alcoholically is what it really comes down to. And I'm waking up in the morning with that feeling of impending doom. And so now I've really put myself into a real bad situation, because I'm not talking and I'm not asking questions and I'm being secretive and I'm pretending. Not good things for alcoholics to do, because it all just leads up to desperate thinking. And so what was happening all this time is that I was feeling more desperate and more desperate in my mind, and I was more or less confused about really what I was doing, and I was becoming more aimless in my directions. So I would be just bouncing from one consequence to the next, and as I did that, I decided that I was going to. I had met my wife that I was going to marry in the future, and thank God I met my wife, because she really helped me with my inability to see who I really was. And what was really happening is that, along with this idea of being bewildered and confused and not really talking about things and not asking for help, in all that, life happens. And what I had is I remember one time that I had what I had was an appendicitis attack, and so I'm down in the basement drinking NyQuil, thinking that I got a bad flu, and my wife, my girlfriend, she says, she worked at a hospital. She was an X-ray technician. She says, no, you don't have the flu. I think you have an appendicitis. You have to go to the hospital, and you got to go right now. And that saved my life in reality. And so there was another bout. That was another bout in the hospital. That was after I had crashed my car, which I split my lip and I got stitches and new car and all kinds of different things that create problems for the alcoholic person. And of course, I never stopped drinking. That's the bottom line. I didn't stop drinking, and so I decided that over a period of time, my wife and I, this was about I would probably say about 79. We moved in together, and we decided we were going to get married, and so I started to become. I really wanted to change. I really wanted to change my behavior, and I wanted to do all these different things. So we moved in before we got married. We moved into a little apartment over by Elston and Central in Chicago, where all the houses looked the same. And so what I didn't realize is that I had developed a daily habit of drinking, and now I had to sneak my drinking. So now I was sneaking around trying to figure out how I could drink. and that did not work very well. The consequences became closer and faster, and I became more, and life was more of a struggle. And I was very close to Milwaukee Avenue, and that was very big problem for me, because I knew I could go over to here, go over to this place, and go over that. There was many evenings where I just could not find my car the next day, and I was desperate to get into AA. And the only reason I knew that I was desperate to get into AA is because my wife left brochures in every drawer of the house. She knew my brother, and my brother, they were in cahoots. They weren't talking to me. My family wasn't talking to me, and all I could do is, and I was, it was right around 79, 80. There was a mild recession, and the housing industry went to hell. And I was I had moved back to working construction. I had worked construction to pay for school when I was younger, and so my brother was a carpenter before me, and so I lined up some work with construction, but the construction industry kind of fell apart at that time, so I wasn't working, and I had too much time on my hand, and I finally asked my brother, what he actually had told me, when you are ready, you come and see me, and I'm going to tell you what to do. And that's what happened. I finally got desperate enough to ask for help, and he directed me to AA, and so he said, when I'm just going to tell you what meeting to go to, and you're going to go to the meeting, and then you're going to see what that whether you take to it or not, And so when I went to my first meeting, all this time I have been wandering around aimlessly, and this is for about a year, 6 months, just doing one stupid thing after another, and really starting to get into some serious trouble mentally. And so when I came into the doors of AA, I felt as though I was totally unique, that I was the only one with the kinds of problems that I had, and how did I ever get here, and what did I do? And I was completely bewildered, and I was fearful, and I was alone, and I had people around me, but that's just the way that I felt. So when I came into the doors of AA, I went to a meeting out in the western suburbs, northwest suburbs, and it was a great AA meeting. And I didn't know it at the time, but it was. And when I walked through the doors, I was greeted, and I got plenty of support from these people. They were welcoming. They told me to have a seat, and it was in the back of a bar, which is really strange. It was in a banquet hall in the back of a bar, and there were about 40 people there. And I didn't know what. I couldn't even see through the smoke. There was so much smoke in the room. And but they told me to sit down and try to listen for the similarities. And that's what I did. And first, I was very surprised that I was so welcomed, so warmly welcomed. And I just I thought there was hope for me. That's what I thought. I thought maybe this could work for me. And so I made a decision to go to AA, and then I started coming back to that particular meeting. It was a fellowship meeting, though. They supported me. It was wonderful. And I really felt good about it. And after about 3 or 4 meetings, I got to talking to some of these people. And they said, how many meetings are you going to? I'm going to one. I'm going to a weekend meeting. Man, he said, you got to go to more meetings than that. And not only do you have to go to more meetings, you have to find a step meeting. and you got to start working the steps, pal. And so that's what happened. I went to my next meeting that I went to was a Friday night meeting. And that was the meeting that I told you about when I first started talking, that this was the meeting that the people greeted me. Same kind of warmth, same kind of greeting. And the people told me that, all right, just like I said before, they told me, you go over there, you go to the beginners group, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And the beginners group was separate from the rest of the group. And then they said, they told me about some of my responsibilities. I'd be making coffee, and that got me coming to the meeting early, just like I had said before. And I got to start to meet people, and these people would give me suggestions. And they said, all right, well, now you got to meet. Now you have to lead the 1, 2, 3 wrap up. And so I led the 1, 2, 3 wrap up. And as I was going to the 1, 2, 3 wrap up, I saw the lights go on in someone else's eyes, and I saw them understand the higher power, and I saw it working in their lives. And as I saw that working in someone else's lives, I knew that this thing worked. And that was when I started to understand step 2. And that's when I started understanding step 3 and making a decision to move on with the steps. Of course, they told me that if I don't work 4 and 5, that I was going to drink again. By that time I was feeling pretty good, and I wanted what these people had. They seemed to be happy, and they were going to the step meetings, and they were talking and having and doing some things that I was not doing. They were opening up. They were being vulnerable. They were being honest. They were doing the things that I was uncomfortable with all my life. And so what was happening is I was becoming more social, and I was becoming more aware that I had been living myself. I've been living in a hole. I have been living in the dark for 15 years. And so as I did that, I hadn't gotten a sponsor by that time, but I had, but I in a hurry, I said, okay, I do my 4th and 5th step, and I'm going to get a sponsor, and I'm going to sit down, and I'm going to do the 4th and 5th step. And of course I was fearful, and so I sat down with this gentleman. I don't know if he'd had very much time in the program at all, but he said he would do it. And I sat down with him, and I did my 5th step. I don't think it was the best 5th step in the world, but it was a start. And when I got back to my Friday night meeting, I told some of the people in that step group that I had done my 4th and 5th step, and I felt like I belonged in AA. I felt like I was in AA. And one of the gentlemen said, he said, well, good for you. Welcome to the human race. And I thought that was really a good thing for him to have said. It was the first time that I had really made contact with somebody that made me feel good. I'd love to tell you that that I worked the rest of the steps, and I just went boom, boom, boom. I did just accept it. I did exactly what it said in step 6. I went home for an hour, and I sat down, and I read took the book down off the shelf, as they say, and I read and I contemplated on what I had done. But really what I had done is this: I had made contact with my higher power. I felt like I had been forgiven. I felt that I belonged in AA. I felt that I was really doing, I felt that I felt better than I ever felt my life, as far as my mental condition. My emotions were settling down. And, but if I would have read would have read a little further, and I wouldn't have started analyzing everything and trying and start making up my own mind and trying to control what I've been doing, I would have read a little further. And I think that I would have come to the conclusion in step 6 that I had to cooperate with God. And, but I did understand that I was starting to learn about how I thought by doing my 4th step and understanding. I used the 12 and 12 for my 4th step, and I understood how pride worked against me in my life, and how it got me to be secretive, and how it got that I didn't want to let anybody know what was going on. But if I had talked to the same gentleman that told me, "Welcome to the human race," and he said, I said, I'm confused, a little bit confused about this, what these shortcomings and what these defects are, And he said, why don't you just go work with someone new, and that's probably going to straighten things out for you, and which was good advice. But if I had gone a little bit further, I would have hit the part where it says on page 74 in the 12 and 12, we enjoy moments in which we are something like real peace of mind. To those of us who have hitherto known only excitement, depression, anxiety, in other words, to all of us, this newfound peace is a priceless gift. Something new indeed has been added, where humility had formerly stood for force-feeding a humble pie. It now begins to mean the nourishing ingredient which can give us serenity. All right, and that's humility. And so I started to understand that, along with what that gentleman said earlier today in the meeting, that don't take yourself so seriously, Tom, and just humbly ask God for help, and you'll be transformed in your life, just like everybody else that works the steps in AA. And then I'm going to leave it up to you now to work with your sponsors on step 8 and step 9. And just like it says at the bottom of step 7, step 7 is where we make a change in our attitude, which permits us, with humility as our guide, to move out from ourselves towards others and towards God. And I'll end it with that. And now, I'm not sure, Karen, but I'm pretty sure that you want me to end with the prayer of my choice.
Let me make a couple announcements and we'll do that.
Okay, very good.